This is Rightly Used with Adam and Karen.
So, as you will notice, things are a little bit different this episode because we're not actually here.
No, we're not.
We are off doing something brave and going to that London,
The Big Smoke.
the old Smoky, to see a Cheap Show live event as part of the Cheerful Earful podcast festival that is hosted in London every year.
Our spiritual inspiration.
They are indeed. We
love you guys.
We do love you guys.
Clearly.
Sorry. We are a love letter to you, we promise. So the plan is we're in London and you are stuck with whatever Adam has cobbled together for you.
Yep. We're away. We're meeting up with the rest of the Channel 84 family and hopefully some more people from other pods and what I'm deeming a parasocial pod squad.
Yeah.
We're going to be meeting up. So while we're away, I've thought I'd compile all the lightly used news segments so far into Turnip Tales, Part 1. A whole lot of turnip. This has been doing the rounds on the internet. It's from the Abergavenny Chronicle, Saturday the 9th of March, 2024.
Okay.
7:54pm.
Okay. Is the time relevant?
No,
all right,
not
okay.
at all. It's by Tin Butters, Close Encounters of the Turnip Kind.
Oh, God.
An Abergavenny man who headed to the Keeper's Pond to catch a glimpse of the Northern Lights last weekend swears down that although he didn't see the Aurora Borealis, he did make contact with an alien life form.
I love that they've used the term swears down. That is such a
That's
Welshism. That is such a Welshism. I love it. I swear down. It means that they really promise really, really hard as they can promise anything that they're telling the truth.
Semi-professional long-distance runner Johnny Turnip told the Chronicle that he headed up the Glenavon Road with his trusty Nikon F camera to take a few snaps of the otherworldly phenomenon for a local Facebook community group page. Yet upon arrival, he realised not only had he got the date wrong, but the two friends he'd arranged to meet there were, quote, spitting feathers, because they thought Turnip had invited them to an all-night rave as opposed to a heavenly light show. Big Tony and Puerto Rico Paul, they were frothing at the mouth with rage when they realised just how wrong they'd got things, recalled Turnip fondly. Bloody idiots didn't know what the Northern Lights were. Thought it was a bunch of old school DJs from Manchester putting on an event like it was 1989 all over again. To make matters worse, they turned out like a right couple of kippers. White gloves, whistles, bucket hats, dungarees, tie-dye t-shirts, you name it. These couple of tarts were ticking every acid house cliché in the book. It's not healthy for men in their early 50s to be acting like that. Still, it was good to see those two in speaking terms again. Things turned sour between them after an incident in the Guardsman in the early 90s over a baby sham and some questionable sartorial choices.
Baby sham!
90s. They finally buried the hatchet thanks to their shared love of dance music and strobe lights.
Oh, my Lord.
Turnip told the Chronicle that after laughing at their collective idiocy and reminiscing about the good old days over a flagon of white lightning, the three friends decided to walk from the Keepers to the top of the Blorringe and light a fire. You can't beat a good fire on a cold night, topple mounting, explained Turnip. Big Tony was moaning we didn't have any tyres to burn because he likes the smell and they last a long time. He soon cheered up when I told him, I've got a few cans of deodorant in my rucksack, we can blow them up if we get bored.
Oh, God.
Anyhow, we got to the top, and the whole of Aber was laid out below us, all lit up like a toy town. It was well depressing. We started in the whiskey, and the mood soon picked up, especially when Puerto Rico Paul started to blast out the Prodigy's No Good Start the Dance in his portable ghetto blaster.
This is so Welsh.
I'm doing my best.
Welsh. No, your accent is great, but these blokes on this story are so Valley boys, they're so Welsh. I love
Definitely real.
I love it.
We were soon guzzling whiskey like those energy drinks the youngsters are addicted to, screaming like lunatics and dancing around the fire like three well-dressed warlocks. We must have looked the right state. It was only then that we noticed the extraterrestrial.
Ooh.
Turnip revealed they noticed a bald-headed stranger sitting cross-legged on the edge of the mountain, gazing intently up at the stars. It was Big Tony who noticed him first, explained Turnip. He stopped dancing and snarled, "Who's a dickhead?" Tom can be like that when he's got a good heart. He'll never start a fight, but having said that, he'll never walk away from one either.
Oh my God.
Personally, I knew straight away it was an alien. I could tell by its posture and its sense of otherness. I've always had a good radar for that sort of thing. As we approached the thing from the skies, Puerto Rico Paul was particularly cautious because he claims he was once abducted by aliens and subject to all sorts of experiments. But to me, that just sounds like wishful thinking. Anyhow, as we got closer, it was making this weird sort of noise, and its eyes firmly fixed on the firmament. It seemed completely indifferent to our presence, and even when Big Tony shouted, "Where are you from, alien? Kent, is it?" The shiny-headed creature just kept making this unsettling noise. We held hands, surrounded it in a circle, and Big Tony asked with a slight edge of hysteria in his voice, "From what distant galaxy have you travelled, space thing?" Yet still it ignored us like we were nothing more than mentally challenged savages. Turnip explained that suddenly noticed the intergalactic visitor was sitting in a circle of toadstools, and Puerto Rico Paul screamed, "It's no alien, it's Twilight Teg! Run before they kidnap us, merry band of brothers, and force us into a life of servitude in the fairy realms." Turnip told the Chronicle, "We hot-heeled it off the mountain like we were being chased like Benny Hill himself. Big Tony tripped on his flares a few times, but we made it back to the keeper's car park in one piece." We were all taught by Puerto Rico Paul's mother, who was known as the Witch of Tudor Street, not to mess with the fairies, or the Twilight Teg as she called them. She always said, "If you ever come across the little folk, keep your distance." I always thought she had some sort of weird phobia of dwarves, but now I've actually met a fairy, I know better. Turnip added, "It was a strange and unsettling experience. I never expected to bump into one on the Blorringe, but life's strange like that. Go for the light, stay for the fairies." Since his encounter with one of the little people, Turnip insists he's been brushing up on fairy lore and believes if he captures one of the Twilight Teg, it'll grant him a wish.
Good luck.
Turnip said, "In hindsight, we were a bit rash to flee the scene. It's not every day you come across a mythical creature who can grant wishes. If I can trap and tame a fairy, the world will be my oyster."
With one wish.
We return to the Abergavenny Chronicle and Monmouthshire Beacon by Tim Butters from Monday the 18th of March 2024. Monmouthshire Man claims he has found the entrance to secret tunnel network. For centuries, rumours have abounded that Abergavenny sits on top of a huge underground network of tunnels that were once used by everyone from Owain Glyndŵr to sex-crazed monks. Over the years, many amateur sleuths have attempted to prove the tunnels exist, but to no avail. Until now. Semi-professional, long-distance runner Johnny Turnip believes he has found a portal to the hidden realms of the town, and it happened by accident.
Go on, Johnny.
"I was trying to make contact with one of the fair folk where it happened," explained Turnip. "I know that might sound like the ramblings of a lunatic, and once I would have agreed with you. However, after my encounter with a member of the Twilight Teg the other week on top of the Blorringe, I'm one of the wide-awake gang now. I know these mythical creatures are real, and if we'd attempted to catch it instead of fleeing the scene in fright, we could have been kings of the world. Fairies can grant wishes, see? And now we know they're real, we're going to capture one and make it do our bidding." Turnip reveals that alongside his brothers-in-arms, Big Tony and Puerto Rico Paul, his first bid to trap and tame a Twilight Teg was a failure. He explained, "We tried Big Tony's tactic of erecting this huge steel monolith-like structure on Hay Bluff to draw one in from the enchanted realms and trap it with a fishing net. Tony had spent a lot of time on top of Lord Hereford's knob as a young man, and said there's always been a lot of fairy activity in that neck of the woods." Turnip added, "I'm not sure about the science behind it, but Big Tony said a lump of shiny steel would prove irresistible to the little folk, and he knew a builder's yard where some was going spare. Well, after carrying it to the top of the hill and getting it in the ground, we sat there all night drinking white rum and waiting for something to happen, but all we got was a big fat nothing. We couldn't be bothered to take it down, so we left it there for the locals to look at. Not a lot goes on in Powys, so we thought it would give the natives something to talk about during the dark nights and dull days. Anyhow, once we left Bow and our country and made it safely back to the urban sophistication of the Mardi, we decided to revert to Plan B in our bid to find a portal to the fairy realms." Turnip explained that Puerto Rico Paul's mother, Pauline, or the Witch of Tudor Street as she was once affectionately known, was well versed in fairy lore, and so they visited her caravan just on the outskirts of Llanthony Priory for advice.
Oh, that's a good word.
"Ever since they cleared the sums, the witch left Aber and has refused to return," said Turnip. She said it's been overrun by beatniks and amateur chefs and not the town she once knew. She's lived in the caravan for years, giving tarot card readings to finance her chocolate addiction and listening to Rick Astley records. They help with the gout, apparently. However, if you want to catch a fairy, she's your lady. When we told her what we were planning, she was a bit dismissive and called us a bunch of goons who were meddling in the higher powers. But it was her knowledge of the ancient ways we wanted, not compliments.
This is brilliant.
Turnip revealed the three of them left the caravan armed with the riddle that if they wait by the tree of winter blossom, by the stones of poetry in the meadow of swans, near the river that named a town at the stroke of midnight, the oracle of spikes will lead the way to the hidden realms.
Ooh.
I knew straight away where she meant, explained Turnip. She didn't have to dress it up in such ridiculous language, though. She could have just said, go to the grass pit near the bus station and wait. So that's exactly what we did. Unsure of exactly what they were waiting for, the three friends huddled together in Swan Meadows beneath the blossom tree and spent their time violently arguing about who would make the best wish if they did capture a fairy. Birdo Paul said he was going to wish for a time machine, revealed Turnip. Apparently he wants to go back to the night the Beatles played Abergavenny to find out if Paul really is his father like he claims. I said to the Dorsey Tart, think what you'd have to witness to prove your dad is really a Beatle. It wouldn't be pleasant. Turnip added, Big Tony had a better wish. He wanted to be the owner of the biggest construction company in the UK. It's a nice idea for a man with a strong work ethic but limited abilities like Tone, but it stinks of a small town mentality. When I revealed my wish was to become a god, you could see them growing suspicious. They didn't think big has always been their problem. The Three Musketeers' reverie was eventually broken by a rustling coming from a nearby tree, and in the moonlight, what looked like a small mythical creature appeared and made tentative movements towards them. Turnip recalled, Big Tony grabbed a net and was about to pounce when Perto Paul screamed, Leave it alone, you big lump, it's a bloody hedgehog. You can imagine our disappointment, explained Turnip. We came for the wings, all we got was the spikes. The hedgehog wandered by all brazen, giving us a contemptuous scowl that seemed to suggest, not my circus, not my monkeys. However, when we followed the Oracle of Spikes, we found something a lot better than the fairy. We found the secret entrance to Abergavenny's lost network of tunnels.
No fucking way.
To be continued.
No, you can't leave it there. It's just getting exciting.
The Ramblings of Johnny Turnip. Man warns we should all be very afraid of what lies beneath Abergavenny by Tim Butters from the Abergavenny Chronicle on Monday the 25th of March. A local man who claims to have found the entrance to Abergavenny's secret network of tunnels has since returned from that underground labyrinth with a fantastical story to tell. Semi-professional, long-distance runner Johnny Turnip, alongside his mates Big Tony and Puerto Rico Paul, accidentally stumbled across a gateway to the tunnels during their quest to trap and tame a fairy. Turnip claims that after following a hedgehog he calls the Oracle of Spikes from the Swan Meadows to the castle, hoping it would lead them to a fairy lair, they discovered the entrance to the hidden realms of Abergavenny. Turnip said, if you think sticking to the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit is hard, try following an hedgehog. It's a slow and laboured process, particularly when you've no idea where it's leading you. I don't know if you've spent a lot of time around hedgehogs, but they seem to have a massive attitude. It kept stopping, sniffing the air, turning around, giving us the eyeball. Prickly customers in every sense of the word. To make matters worse, 3 grown men intently following a hedgehog single file through the town in the early hours is going to attract attention, especially with Big Tony's history of badger baiting. Oh, Tony, I thought you were a good guy. Let us all down.
Shocked.
It's a good job the police are either all keeping a stern eye on their Twitter feeds or loading up in Mackie D's, or we'd have been nicked for acting like dickheads. That's something that happened a lot back in the day, I can tell you, recalled Turnip affectionately. Turnip explained that after about 3 torturous hours of walking like zombies in the hedgehog's trail, it led them to the entrance of the castle, and then shocked them all by simply rolling on its back and dying.
Oh, God.
I couldn't believe it, said Turnip. We followed that bloody thing for hours, then had the cheek to die on us. Zero respect.
Jesus Christ.
Big Tony was fuming and went to kick it, but every living thing deserves respect, so I carefully put it inside a plastic bag and threw it in a nearby hedge.
Oh, God.
Turnip added, now that the only lead to find a fairy was as dead as a duck, we needed to use our heads and think on our feet. No sooner had they begun to argue over who was calling the shots, when Turnip claims he noticed a green light hovering over a patch of leaves inside the castle walls. It was another sign from my ancestors, claimed Turnip. It was like a will-o'-the-wisp beckoning us onwards. So we scaled the castle walls like we were teenagers again, but with bigger bellies and more mental health problems, and jumped down the other side to meet our destiny.
Sorry. The bigger bellies and more mental health problems. I was like, yep. I think I might be Johnny Turnip.
Oh, I don't want to be Big Tony now.
Can you be Puerto Rico Paul? You got a better name.
Never been there.
Doesn't matter. I don't think he has either.
You might be from there.
Oh, that's true.
You might have a postcard.
He's got a fridge magnet.
He got a 10 once.
Hard to do in Abergavenny.
After arriving at the part of the castle where they'd seen the green light, the three friends sunk to their knees and began to frantically dig at the ground in the belief they were burrowing into the kingdom of the fairy. We were like demented rabbits, recalled Turnip. After getting about 3 feet down, Big Tony started muttering about how it was a lost cause and he was ready to wipe out the whole of Clan Foyce for a good shovel. However, Puerto Rico Paul spurred him on by saying, "Your old school tone, shovels are for lady boys, we're Mardy. Now dig, bitch." It did the trick. Big Tone pushed us aside, bellowed like a wild pig, and set out the hole like a Jack Russell with his blood up. Turnip told the Chronicle, when they were 6 feet under, their raw and bleeding hands hit something hard and unyielding. Oh, God. Upon clearing the earth, they came across a hatch of sorts that was painted green and had a brass knob and plaque inscribed with the words, "Behold, you are now entering the gateway into the hidden realms of the Gateway to Wales." Turnip said, "I'm no Shakespeare, but as inscriptions on doors into other realms go, it lacked a certain poetry. The wording felt a bit clumsy, to be honest. Nevertheless, the hunt was on, and with all three of us pulling on the big brass knob, we gained entry quite easily."
I bet.
Behind the green door, the three friends found a spiral stone staircase leading deep into the bowels of the earth. Those steps went down as deep as the eye can see and sort of disappeared into the dark, explained Turnip. At first, we were all overcome with a sense of dread, like when you wake up in the cells, hungover with no memory. I then had something resembling a panic attack and blurted out, "What if we never escape these tunnels and get to drink cold lager in the sun again?" But then Big Tony said, "Bugger it, if there's fairies down there, they owe us. I've come for what's mine." Encouraged by Tone's "he who dares" attitude, we merrily implored him to lead on, and strode, or stepped tentatively, because those steps were very narrow, into the great unknown. After about 5 minutes of descending into the pit of horrors, Big Tony hit another closed door. He tried to force it, but this one was locked tight, explained Turnip. After raging against it for minutes, beating with his fists and head-butting it repeatedly, Big Tony slumped to the ground with his head in his hands, and although he wouldn't admit it, began to weep and repeat over and over again, "Dear gods, what have I done?" I've only seen him like this once before. That's when he lost 20 grand on the Grand National. Puerto Rico Paul simply sneered and said, "Pull yourself together, Anthony. You're looking a bit flaky, son." He then sparked up a fag, and the light from his Zippo illuminated a riddle on the door I wish we'd never solved, because what we found beneath Abergavenny will haunt me to the day I die. To be continued.
Ah, always when he gets to the good parts. I love these stories.
Man urges public to keep away from Abergavenny's underworld. By Tim Butters in the Abergavenny Chronicle, Monday the 1st of April, 2024. A man who claims to have rediscovered Abergavenny's secret tunnel network is now urging people to stay away after he and his friends made a discovery that will mess with your head. Johnny Turnip, Big Tony and Puerto Rico Paul explained that they set out to trap and tame a fairy, but got a lot more than they bargained for when they accidentally found the entrance to Abergavenny's underworld in the grounds of the castle. Turnip told the Chronicle,
At first, the riddle in the door leading to tunnels had us all stumped. It read, "What is the name of the ancient tribe of Abergavenny, and what mythical animal did they once worship in the deepest wild?" Spelt W-I-L-D-E.
Was it a hedgehog?
Turnip added, "We must have smoked about 10 fags each trying to work that one out. Although I can name all of King Henry VIII's wives and how they died, and Puerto Rico Paul is something of a specialist on the life and works of German existential philosophers, none of us are exactly history buffs." Suddenly, Big Tony surprised us all by shrieking, "I've got it! They didn't spell wild wrong. They were talking about Marty Wilde and the song Abergavenny." To be honest, I had no idea wild was spelled wrong, but then I'm not a reader like Tone. When he's not busy digging ditches or drinking his body weight in lager, you can usually find him with his head buried in Martina Cole. Turnip added, "Thank God for Tone's eureka moment. We knew the lyrics to a song we'd grown up drinking fortified wine to by heart. At one we chanted, 'The ancient tribe is paradise people, and the mythical animal is a red dog.' As soon as we spoke, the door slid open, and from somewhere inside, the song began to blast out from some hidden sound system. The bass was something else. It had a real kick, with Tony taking the lead and merrily shouting, 'He who dares!' We began to descend more steps into a dark and dank tunnel." Turnip explained, "We all began to do a little dance as we walked. Big Tony sort of raised his hand above his head, wiggled his fingers, and did this sort of mincing movement with his feet. For a big man, Tone's always been light on his feet. It's what makes him such a good fighter and dancer. Puerto Rico Paul did a trademark Axl Rose serpentine shuffle, and I just brought up the rear, strutting like John Travolta's character in Saturday Night Fever as he makes his way to the dance floor to teach some punk a lesson." Turnip added, "That tune's a proper upper. Brynjem's version's class, but Marty's is the real deal. I once wrote to Liam Gallagher and asked him why he hadn't done a cover version of it, but he never replied. Probably feels he hasn't got the vocal ability to do it justice and was a bit too embarrassed to say." Nana Turnip, also known as Annie Horror Show, once it played at her funeral. Although she's got a reputation as a moody mare, behind the venom and spite she's got a wicked sense of humour. She wants an old-fashioned funeral procession through the middle of town with horses, carriages, the works. She wants the march to start slow with a brass band playing the Darth Vader tune. Then, someone will get a black rock cock to crow by showing it a photo of Gary Barlow. This will cue the band to start playing Abergavenny. Should be a great day. Shame Horror Show won't be there to see it."
Oh my God.
Turnip told the Chronicle that once the song was over, the three friends walked for what seemed like 5 minutes in complete silence, apart from Tony's laboured breathing, and then a strange apparition blocked their path. Turnip recalls, "It was all fun and games until we saw what looked like a slightly overweight male wearing tracksuit bottoms and a pair of beaten-up Nike Airs. As a semi-professional long-distance runner, I hate to see trainers that have lost their integrity and box fresh appeal. It kind of reminds me of the horror at the end of all things. But that wasn't the worst part. For some reason, this dude had decided to customise his look by wearing a knight's helmet and some sort of medieval body armour. He was also holding an axe, but seemed kind of embarrassed by it." Turnip added, "He then said in a sort of voice you wouldn't usually find outside the panto, 'Halt! I am Gary the Grey, custodian of the gateway and keeper of the 9 secrets. These paths belong to another. Leave now, if you value both sanity and soul.'" Turnip said, "I always recognise a nutter when I see one. This guy was having a major meltdown. However, I needed to tread carefully. Big Tony's got little patience for dramatic types, and if this athletic knight dude kept talking like that, he was probably going to get lamped. So, as a man of tact, I decided to take an innovative approach and play the madman at his own game. I said, 'Let us speak plainly. We've come to capture ourselves a fairy. Now, as soon as we have one of the little people in the bag, we'll be on our way.' He got all uppity at this, raised his axe and shouted, 'I am sworn defender of the Twylith Teg, and you, sirs, are scoundrels whose foul taint I will cleanse the earth and other realms of.'"
The foul taint?
It was strong stuff, but our teachers used to say worse. Either way, it seemed the time for talk was done. Big Tony adopted his fighting stance and was about to kick off when Puerto Rico Paul piped up with, "Hang on a sec. I recognise that voice. It's Manny from the estate." Almost immediately, the athletic knight dude dropped his axe, took off his helmet, and all became clear. To be continued.
Ah, for God's sake!
Man admits defeat in his quest to trap and tame a fairy, by Tim Butters from the Abergavenny Chronicle on Monday the 8th of April. After accidentally stumbling across Abergavenny's secret tunnel network whilst trying to enslave a fairy, semi-professional long-distance runner Johnny Turnip has made the outrageous claim that his old friend Manny from the estate has lived in the underworld for the past decade, protecting the town from other realms. It's not a well-known fact, but Abergavenny is the centre of the known universe, explained Turnip. And our old friend Manny from the estate has been keeping a lonely vigil beneath the town for years, ensuring the world is safe from hideous entities from other dimensions. Turnip added, "It sounds like bottled insanity, I know, but after myself, Big Tony and Puerto Rico Paul bumped into some dude wearing Nike Airs in the tunnels. The last person we expected to find behind the knight's helmet was Manny from the estate. He called himself Gary the Grey at first, but Puerto Rico Paul recognised his distinctive twang. Manny disappeared from a town 10 years ago. Lazy Sue said she heard he'd moved to Brecon, and when that happens, it usually means something's gone profoundly wrong in a man's life, so we didn't pry. His best mate, Fast Eddie, was inconsolable, though. They'd pretty much grown up in the same garden shed together, and the thought of Manny reaching such a low point in life that moving to Powys was the only answer was nearly too much for Eddie to take. Turnip explained that once he realised the jig was up, Manny took off his helmet and, gazing fondly upon his old friends with bloodshot eyes, told his tragic tale. One day, he consumed a spectacular amount of magic mushrooms on the dairy and fell helplessly into the fairy kingdom. We nodded thoughtfully at this because we've all been there. The only difference is, Manny decided to stay, explained Turnip. The Twylith Teg made him an offer that if he worked for them as a sort of handyman in the tunnels beneath Aber, he could live there rent-free, and they'd provide him with all the lager, takeaways, internet, Netflix and Xbox One games a man would ever need. Manny's only human, and he jumped at such a generous offer. He told me, "JT, I'd pretty much run out of road in the world above. I was going nowhere fast. I wanted to live a little and see a bit of the world, so I decided to take my chances in the tunnels. I've been here nearly 10 years now, and it's a good life. A man can get a bit lonely at times, but I try to keep active on the socials, and that keeps me honest. The job's very easy as well. In theory, I'm supposed to stop unspeakable entities from using Abergavenny as a portal to enter the world and consume it in a never-ending orgy of violence and terror. But apart from having to sort out some drunken leprechauns in 2018, things have been relatively quiet. Most of the work entails keeping curious visitors from Aber out. There's been a lot of interest in these tunnels in recent years, and the last thing my fairy overlords want is a never-ending stream of tourists visiting their realm and posting pictures about it on Facebook. These tunnels are a two-way system. Bad things from the land of fairy can use them to enter Aber, but equally as repulsive life forms from the world above can use them to enter the home of the Teg. So I'm afraid you're going to have to leave. I know you wanted to take a fairy back with you, but it ain't happening on my watch, and for old time's sake, I hope we can keep things peaceful." Turnip explained that after a quick discussion with Big Tony and Puerto Rico Paul, the three adventurers decided the time had come to call it quits. They'd have to return home empty-handed, but, as Turnip pointed out, it's not the destination, but the journey that counts, and our adventures in the underworld had taught us a valuable lesson. None of us can function very well after 24 hours without lager. We needed to get to the surface again, and soon. We were all dehydrated and bored. Big Tony in particular was getting very tetchy. The time had come to leave this stinking sewer system to the fair folk. After asking Manny the best place to exit, he led them to a set of steel steps that led to a manhole in Cross Street. Turnip explained, it seemed a bit tight on Manny to leave him alone in the underworld, and Big Tony pleaded, "It's no life for a Mardy man, stumbling around in the dark like a mole. Come and have a pint with us, Manny. Besides which, always need a good labourer, and you're the best shovel man I know." There were tears in Manny's eyes after such unexpected praise from Big Tone, but his mind was made up. He simply looked at us like an acid house Rasputin and said, "I've made a new life here, fellas. Besides which, the fairies need me. I've made my vows. I'm the watcher in the tunnels, and my vigil goes on until I no longer have eyes to see or hands to fight." Turnip added, "There was a bit of an embarrassed silence after the last bit of unnecessary waffle." But then I made a point of holding Manny's gaze and silently mouthed the phrase of semi-professional runners and borderline alcoholics everywhere: "Go hard or go home." It was an emotional moment, but I have to admit, it soon passed as I wrote, "Come on, boys! Last one at 5 drinks all night." We left Manny sobbing softly as we stormed up the steps, giggling and trying to elbow one another out the way like out-of-control toddlers. Yet, when we finally burst through the manhole and breathed deep of the night air and liberation, little did we know what would be waiting for us. To be continued.
Were the pubs closed?
Abergavenny Man claims secret organisation have been monitoring his activities.
Oh, dun dun dun.
An Abergavenny Man who claims he knows the location of the entrance to Abergavenny's secret tunnel network has stressed he will take the secret to his grave after being threatened by some mysterious and well-dressed men. In his fantastical quest to capture a fairy, because he believed it would make him a god, semi-professional, long-distance runner Johnny Turnip and his 2 mates accidentally wandered into Abba's underworld and found our mate Manny from the estate, guarding the portal between this realm and the next. When we realised Manny was employed by the Fairfolk as some sort of guardian of the big door, we decided to abandon our mission as a favour to our friend, explained Turnip. Anyhow, when we fled the tunnel and burst through a manhole in Cross Street, our hopes of having a session back at Big Tony's were shattered when we were suddenly surrounded by about 10 men in beige suits and sunglasses. Now, I'm all for wearing shades, but it was about 3 a.m. with zero sun, and unless you're Bono, that makes you slightly suspect. Turnip told the Chronicle that the suited, booted, and shaded men surrounding them, with slightly smug expressions, reminded me of Ed Sheeran. He explained that Puerto Rico Paul broke the silence by sneering, "Who's this then? The men in beige, or the Monmouthshire chapter of the Rick Astley fan club?" Turnip explained, "Their leader got all stroppy at the dig, and tried to come back all cool with, well, if it's not Jimmy Parsnip and his 2 sidekicks." But no one can match Puerto Rico Paul in a bitch fight, and as quick as a flash, he sniped, "There's no parsnip here, sweetheart, just a whole lot of turnip." They stumped the chap. They had no choice but to resort to brute force to restrain our wit. He ordered his men to grab us, and though I could see Big Tony limbering up for a square go, I held my hand up to him as a gesture that said, "Not now, Tone. 12 on 3's not good odds, even for a fighting man like yourself. Let's go with the flow, bide our time, and seize the opportunity to launch a counter-offensive when the time is right." Turnip said, "It's amazing what you can say without words, but me and Tony go back decades and can communicate like wolves." Turnip added, "After they placed sacks on our heads, but bizarrely with eye holes cut out for our eyes, we frog marched towards the castle with 2 of the men in beige on either side. As we walked, I asked, 'So, what's all this about then, boys? It's been a long night, and we just want to get drunk.' Their leader, who introduced himself as Mr. Citizen, said as we walked, 'We know what you clowns have been up to, Turnip, and you old Abergavenny types are a threat to the new town order. You're not active on any Facebook community pages, and you don't wax lyrical about our surrounding hills, nor do you drink overpriced coffee, eat avocados, wear body warmers, practice mindfulness, or even bake your own bread. When was the last time you even had a gong bath, for Christ's sake? Abergavenny's been voted the best place to live in Wales by the Sunday Times, and your antics letting the side down. Your continued presence threatens house prices, and it's high time you were put back in your bloody box. We're a special group of gentlemen who've known about Abergavenny being the centre of the universe for some time. We also know about the tunnels and the fairy realms. Yet every time we lift the manhole in Cross Street, we're greeted by a peculiar force field we just cannot penetrate. For some reason, you losers gained easy access. Now, you'll take us to the entry point of the underworld. From there, our specialist team of marketing and content strategists will use a special mobile phone app in order to conquer the fairy realms." We'll then use the hidden power of the fair folk to turn the whole world into a bespoke and global market town that will rule for all eternity as an international community council.
God.
Turnip explained. I could tell by the way he was sweating when he talked that this dude wasn't the full shilling. Too much time on social media, chasing the crack hit of Facebook likes had destroyed his mind. A night out on the lash would have done him the world of good. Yet sadly, he and his mates will never appreciate the wrong path they took in life because they were too busy dressing like dickheads, checking their emails, and having conversations. And they should have been waking up on the wrong side of 15 pints. Turnip added, as usual, me and the boys were outnumbered and outgunned. But there's no way we were going to lead the men in beige to the lair of Manny from the estate. We were all that stood between the Twilight Egg and these glorified ice cream salesmen. From school to the door, and in Big Tony's case, the occasional spell inside. Our entire lives have been spent fighting bureaucracy, officialdom, and nutjobs in pubs. At times, we may not have known what we were fighting for, or why, but we got good at it, and that's a lesson these men in beige are about to learn the hard way. Turnip said, I was about to launch into the first line of the Pogues' Waxy Stargle, which we adopted as a fighting song in our youth, and which would indicate to Big Tony and Puerto Rico Paul the time had come for a row. However, just as I was about to scream Shane McGowan style, someone dressed as a cowboy and smoking a cigar came to our rescue. To be continued.
Aww. What's a cowboy doing out at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Find out next episode.
Oh, it's such a tease.
Might not have been a cowboy, just dressed as one so far.
Oh, yeah. We hope you've enjoyed our first compilation of Turnip Tales, and obviously full credit to Tim Butters at the Abergavenny Chronicle and Monmouthshire Beacon. You can find links to all the articles in the show blog for this episode at lightlyused.co.uk. Normal service will resume next episode, we promise. We'll let you know what it was like meeting everyone from Channel 84 in person.
Otherwise, the episode will be about 2 weeks removed from there. We're probably going to be the very last to let you know about it. Sorry.
And you can find and enjoy our fellow Studio Channel 84 network shows, The Variety Show, Untitled Trek Show, and Who Takes Her Socks Off at channel84.co.uk.
Adam and Karen have been lightly used. Visit lightlyused.co.uk for more. To get in touch, email pod@lightlyused.co.uk.
This was a Studio Channel 84 network show. To find more, head over to channel84.co.uk now.